Hello to my business owner friends out there. This is Jeremy with Phenomenal Business Coaching, and I wanted to talk to you a minute about coaching employees. We have to coach them up or coach them out, right? Because we need high performers on our team. We've got a lot to accomplish, a lot of big goals, so we need people on the same page as us. So what do we do if someone's just not there, if they're just not meeting the standards? Well, we got to coach them first, right? Before we just let them go. So how do we coach somebody without creating a lot of drama unnecessarily, a lot of hard feelings? What do we do? Well, here's a couple steps I wrote down on what I did, the systems that we created in our company, and I think you'll find these is really helpful. Number one, you want privacy. They say to praise in public, but criticize in private. So what does that mean? It means when you want to praise somebody, praise them in front of the whole group, and that really lifts them up. That really tells everybody else on the team that you value them. It tells them that you value them, and it creates a great part of your culture. But if you start criticizing people in public, criticize them during a meeting, it can create a lot of hard feelings, a lot of animosity, and people may just not step up to the plate like they did before for you because they feel like if they screw up that you're going to take it out on them and maybe embarrass them in public. So you're just not going to get what you used to get out of them, and it's a real shame. You want to always counsel them, always give them criticism, advice in private. Now, there's things you can share in public, obviously, when you're doing trainings and things like that, but you just have to be really careful how you phrase it so they don't feel like you're coming down on them hard in front of their peers, that you can really embarrass them. The same way with your kids. You don't want to do that in front of your kids, embarrass them in front of their friends. It can lead to a lot of animosity, so you just have to be smart in how you do it. Maybe if you need to correct them in public, that's different, but the real criticism, the things that you need to tell them, maybe try to do that as much in private as possible. There's a 5-to-1 rule that's really interesting that I learned during my business days, that for every one negative, you need to have already built up about 5 positives to counteract that. So we're going to think in terms of, from the employee's viewpoint, this coaching might be a negative. So what you want to already have established is at least 5 points of positive interactions with that person before you have to go into that negative. Now, that doesn't mean you can sit down with them in that meeting, then you're going to coach them and tell them 5 nice things about themselves. At that point, it's too late. That's why you want to start building these relationships early with people. As soon as they come on board, are you onboarding them? Are you spending time with them, getting to know them? Maybe even if it's a lower level employee, you're having a cup of coffee with them, asking about their family. Because if you're building these positive interactions first, then when you do have to tell them some constructive criticism, it makes it easier for them to take, because their only interactions with you are negative. That's going to make it really hard for them to get along in your company. So think about that. Anytime you need to interact with people, the same thing with your employees on the front line. Every time they have a negative interaction with a customer, they need to do at least 5 positive things just to counteract that and counterbalance it. Now, that doesn't mean they're ahead now. They're just equaled it out. So we really have to practice hard to find ways to give these positive, what we used to call positive moments of truth, these positive interactions with each other before we have to give something that's a little bit of that harder medicine. Think about it that way. Think about it as some nasty medicine that the doctor gives you. But if that doctor's built up a lot of goodwill first, you trust them more versus some guy that you just met says, here, take this, has no interactions, has no personality, has no bedside manners, as they say. It's going to make it a lot tougher to accept what they're saying, and you might look for another opinion. You want the advice to be impersonal first, and then we're going to go into specific. Impersonal means you're not attacking the person. You're not criticizing them specifically, saying, hey, you are lazy, you show up to work. Let's say they show up to work late all the time. That's the action. You identify that specifically. You show them a list of all the days of the week that they showed up, what time they showed up, what time they were supposed to show up, and hey, you've done this many times, we've had this many negative interactions, and I need you to correct this behavior. Versus saying, hey, you're late all the time, I don't have any proof to back it up, I just know it, I feel like your attitude just hasn't been great. How would that make you feel to sit down in a meeting and somebody says, I just feel like your attitude hasn't been real great, you kind of show up late all the time. You don't like those generalities when you're in an argument, when you're in a discussion with your spouse, right? When they just say, oh, you always do this, you always do that. That's the worst kind of criticism. But if somebody gives you specific instances, then you can look at that data and say, you know what, you're right. I did show up to work 3 days late this week. I don't have an excuse. I'm going to work on that. So you want to be specific, and that way you're criticizing the behavior, not the person. You want to identify when you're having to coach somebody, is this an attitude issue or an aptitude issue? Now, the big difference in that is we kind of know what an attitude issue is. Somebody just isn't into it. They don't want to be there. They're not happy with having to take the instruction. They're not even happy with having to take advice from you right then. That's different than an aptitude issue. An aptitude issue is they either don't know how to do it, they haven't been trained well enough, or maybe they just don't have the aptitude for it. Their personality is just never going to be able to do that kind of skill correctly. They just, it could be a lost cause that they're never going to learn this. But let's try to train them first, right? So an attitude issue, we're going to deal with that differently. That's a different kind of coaching. That's when we have to kind of work on getting them out the door. If they don't, that's a different conversation. But we're going to skip that for now. That's kind of not really the subject of this video, but you're going to know how to deal with that through our coaching. We'll help you with that. But if it's an aptitude issue, then the next thing you want to find out is, do we have a system for it? So if the person's been trained, do we have a written system that we can point to and say, hey, here's the part of the system where you're not following it? Are you following the system? Are they following it if you have one? Or do I not have a written system for that? Which, in that case, that would be the first step. Let's create a written system for this so we can get it right. If they are following it, if they're not following it, then obviously the coaching would be, you need to follow the system. We're going to follow up and make sure you're following the system, and then you should get this, and this result. If you do have a system, they are following it, do you need to adjust the system? Is the system not working anymore? Is it broken? Is the system that used to work in the past, has technology changed, have different factors made it where that system just isn't practical anymore? If so, let's relook at the system. That's when you start needing to get them on your side of the table and say, okay, let's look at this. What do we need to adjust this? Where is it broken? When we get to here and here, is that still working? Okay, that part's working, so we know that's okay. So right here, okay, we've identified this is where we're missing. So let's clarify that further. Who's really good at this part of it? Let's bring them into the conversation. Now, okay, now so-and-so, you're really good at this part. Help us flesh out what do we have wrong in this system? And now you've involved several people in getting this right. Maybe you even have a team meeting and you guys have created something together. And what people create together, they're really a lot more excited about doing than something that they're just handed and say, here, do this. But instead they've helped build this, and now they've identified with it a little more, and they feel more attached to the outcome. So now this is how you really create culture and community, by getting everybody on the same page, working together to do this. And so beyond all that, now we have specific steps. If they're not following the system, maybe they have an attitude issue, maybe they need more training, whatever it is, if there's a no up here somewhere in this decision tree, now we need to make specific steps that we need them to accomplish, and we need to do it by a certain date so that we know that they know that we're going to check on them and make sure they've made some progress. And we know that what to work on. Maybe you assign it to someone else, your manager, or you're going to meet with them. And what I like to do is say, okay, you've been late for 3 different dates this week. What I would like to see, this is the plan of action going forward for the rest of the month. I'm going to meet with you on the 30th. We're going to review if you had any more late instances, and then we're going to take action from there. But what I want to see from you in the meantime, I don't want to see any more occurrences of being late this month. Now, if you've had a conversation, let's say, so this is something that happened before, we had a conversation and found out it's just not possible by the time they take their kids to school. They just weren't allowing enough time to be there on time. So do we need to make adjustments there? If so, that's one thing. But either way, what's our follow-up date? What's our expected behavior? And that's when we're going to set a schedule. Because otherwise, you go through all this, and I've done this a million times, and you don't make any kind of follow-up date. You don't make any kind of plan of action. You just say, hey, I need you to do this, this, and this. And then it stops there. And then you forget about it. A month later, you look back at that person, and they're either doing or not doing the same thing again that you just talked about, and you say, hey, what happened? I thought we were going to do this and work on this. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I forgot about that. Well, with this way, with having a specific follow-up date, they know what's expected. You know what's expected. You put it on your calendar. You've got a reminder set. And if you have a manager, you have them involved, and now we have a specific follow-up, and they know when you say something, you're going to follow up on it and do it. And they don't just say, yeah, Jeremy's just in a mood today. He just gets in this mood after he goes to a conference or after he talks to his coach, and now he's all fired up, but he's just going to forget about it. So we just need to kind of let it get out of his way for a little bit, but we don't really have to do that stuff. Don't worry about it. And that's what they tell the new employees, and that kind of gets passed along. So if you're doing that, you're creating your own enemy, and that's you, that's yourself. Instead, learn to follow up, for them to expect you to follow up, and that's when the implementation will actually happen. That's when change happens. So these are exciting ways, and you don't want to have the attitude as, I'm going to fix this person. You want to have the attitude of, this person's always doing this wrong. You want to go into with the attitude of, this person wants to improve. I'm going to coach them and help them improve and make them a valuable member of my team. Now, at some point, obviously, that's not the case anymore with certain people. They just don't want to improve. Their attitude's not getting better. And then that's when, at this deadline, if the follow-up date, there hasn't been any progress, there hasn't been any mental shift, and now it may be time to cut ties at that point. So anyway, I hope this kind of gives you some information on a great way to coach employees. Now, there's a lot more detail that we can go into with every one of these steps. There's maybe even more steps that I missed. But I wanted to give you kind of the overview of the way of thinking when you go into a coaching situation with an employee where you have to be kind of critical. You might have to make a plan of action and get them on board, or else get them out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it's helpful with your coaching sessions, because I know for me, this was one of the most stressful parts of running a company was, man, I wish just the people would just do what they're supposed to do and we wouldn't have to have these conversations. This is such a drag in my day. And I don't want to be in this room. They don't want to be in this room. They think I'm a jerk. But I think they're the jerk, because I'm going to have to spend part of my day. If they would just do what they're supposed to do, neither one of us would have to be in here. So anyway, sorry for that rant there, but you know what I'm saying. One of the most difficult parts of running a business a lot of times are the people. And that's what makes you so valuable as an entrepreneur, because you really have a great opportunity to build people, pour into people, and create an environment for them to grow and thrive. And that's what we want to help you do. So if you have any questions, we're Phenomenal Business Coaching, the Overture franchise. My name is Jeremy. My wife is Stephanie. We run this, and we help small business owners to stop being a slave to their business. So reach out to us if you want any more information. And until then, until our next video, I hope you have a great rest of the week, rest of the month running your business, and I wish you phenomenal success.